is leadership training. That's just a common need in almost every organization. A number of places will take people who are very good at doing and then put them into a management role. And it's a very different skill set to be able to do something well than to manage other people to do that same thing well. And it's very difficult because a lot of times that new manager doesn't want to let go. They were very good at what they did, and many times they'll say, well, I could just do it, if I just did it myself, it takes less time. But then what did they learn? What did those people learn? So we can't do that. And we've got to train people to start thinking differently, start thinking more strategically, more conceptually. And how do you motivate people now? It's very different than motivating yourself. And so that whole transition from a doer to a manager, and then from a first-line manager to middle or to senior management, it takes yet different changes in conceptual thinking. And so that training has to happen the whole way. You can't just leave it to them to get it on their own. I mean, a very few special people will be able to grasp it and go do the research and get it themselves. But it's a small percentage, and you got to train them either internally or some external organization. So we do a lot of that. We have a 6-class leadership certification series. Each of those classes is about 4 hours, and so we can spread it out over 3 quarters and get those people those basics that they didn't get when they went from being a doer to a manager. One of the interesting ones we've just started this year, and I've got to tell you, it's one of the most exciting new areas that Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, and I think a lot of Seven Habits. Crucial Conversations is a program done by a company called Vital Smarts. And a crucial conversation is one that's defined when 3 things happen. Opinions differ, the stakes are high, and the emotions are running high. All of you can probably think of a situation you've had where that's occurred. But in that situation, it can be very damaging to an organization if it's not handled right. There's usually 2 ways people react. They go to verbal violence, where they just kind of hammer the other person to get their point done, and because it's high stakes. You know, you got a lot at stake and you want your side to win. Or the other party might just go to silence, where they just stop and back off. And what happens in that circumstance is the relationships are hurt, good information is not put out on the table so that everyone can make a good decision, and the relationship suffers, and the organization suffers as a result. So the idea is, how do you get all the good ideas out on the table so that everyone can look at all these good ideas and decide what's best for the organization? That's how you build a high-performing organization where everybody's giving input and everybody's got the information out on the table so we can make the best decisions. You got to make it safe for those people that are quiet but have good ideas to talk. If they don't feel safe, they're not going to give you the input that you need. And as a good leader, you want that. I bet you everyone in here is not the kind of person who just wants a yes person. You want somebody who's going to really tell you what you're saying. There's horror stories out there about hospitals where someone was afraid to tell that doctor that that was the wrong operation he was starting because they didn't feel safe enough to speak up. And so this sells really well in the medical world because it's so crucial, obviously crucial there, but it's equally crucial in your organization. And so if that's something that kind of resonates with you now that I've said that, talk to us about it, because it's really a powerful, very well done training program. The third bullet is really part of our leadership certification. It's actually the 2nd course in 6. If you don't have good trust in your organization, it can really undercut your success. The first class in the first bullet is Leadership Essentials, Essentials of Leadership, rather. But the second one's about inspiring loyalty and trust. If your people don't trust you, and you don't trust your people, you really can't have a highly effective and fast organization, because you're always trying to recheck them and wonder, are they doing what they need to do, and you're thinking the same about you. You've got to get to the point where you can have good trust. And if you don't have good trust, don't despair. There are ways to help that and to improve. There's ways you can identify those weaknesses and work on them to build that trust back in the relationship. All of you have been in ineffective meetings, so that's an obvious one that's very popular this last year. I talked about the electrical motor controls. We're actually expanding that beyond phone frames because there's other companies that have the same needs, so it's nice to be able to duplicate that effectively. And finally, the Lean Six Sigma. We started that in the manufacturing world where there's obvious applications. As you know, the Six Sigma is the way to try to reach practical perfection. It's six standard deviations away from the mean, and that's practical perfection. Three defects per million. And I want to encourage you to think of Six Sigma as more than just a manufacturing kind of training. That if you can define a defect in your organization, you can implement Six Sigma. From your customer standpoint, what's a defect for them? What you do that would count as a failure in their eyes, and you want to eliminate those because you want those customers to be excited about your product as they can. And of course, the lean is being efficient up front so that you're not having a lot of excess inventory, a lot of excess scrap. But that can also even be applied to some non-manufacturing areas for real creative thinking. So these are just some of the things that we've done in this last year. Any questions or thoughts on